So hello, everybody. This is our next episode of Final Cuts by BVS Film Productions. Today we've got a special guest, Wayne Mullins. He is the founder of Ugly Mug Marketing. Wayne is a husband, father of four, an entrepreneur, and founder of Ugly Mug Marketing. He also is a creator of Freelance Accelerator and author of Full Circle Marketing. Wayne, great to see you, man.
Good seeing you as well, Dan. Thanks so much for the opportunity to come and visit.
Oh, our pleasure. So great. I guess step one is, my first question is, where did you come up with Ugly Mug Marketing, and what's that all about?
Despite popular belief, it's not named after myself, so it's not from my face.
The first thing I want to tell you, you look like a rocker.
Thank you. No, it comes from a quote by this gentleman of the name David Ogilvy. So David Ogilvy was the co-founder of an ad agency called Ogilvy & Mather. Ogilvy & Mather at one point was the largest ad agency in the world. Today, they're still in the top 10. But David Ogilvy had this quote within his office that was, "I would rather you show me an ad that's ugly and effective over one that's beautiful but isn't." And so really the name Ugly Mug Marketing is just to play on that idea that we don't want to get caught up and wrapped up in this idea of trying to win an award, trying to do things for the sake of making them beautiful or creative, that we want to stay focused on what matters most, and that is the results for our clients.
Wow, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about your company, what you guys do, and maybe where you started, and how you got where you're at.
Sure, yeah. So my story actually began before Ugly Mug Marketing. I had a lawn and landscape company. And over the course of a 3-year period, I grew that company from just myself, just one account, to a very large, very sizable company with multiple crews going out and maintaining, in our small town, which, 50, 60,000 people, maintaining the biggest accounts, commercial accounts in town. And it was during the course of that 3-year growth that people started coming to me, entrepreneurs, even the clients of the lawn care company, and asking me, Dan, they were saying, what are you doing to grow? How are you actually growing at this rate? And the answer was marketing. We were doing marketing differently than everyone else was doing it. And so I started just giving advice. That advice eventually turned into paid consultations. And then from there, the whole idea of what if I did this full time?
Right. Wow, that's really cool. So, what kind of clients do you have? I mean, who do you have now? I mean, that from a standpoint of like the type of industries.
Yeah, I've had this advice so many times over the years that we should pick a niche or pick a vertical and really go deep into that. And I've always kind of just, that idea, that notion just really doesn't sit well with me. I love novelty. I love new ideas. I love getting to work with a lot of different people. So today, I would say that, on any given month, we have somewhere between 70 and 80 active clients that we're working with on a monthly basis. They range everywhere from HVAC to attorneys to New York Times bestselling authors to publicly traded companies to the coffee shop across the street. And so it's really, I would say that our core denominator between all of our clients would be this, that they are growth minded and they are very entrepreneurial in their thinking.
Cool. So tell us your secret sauce here. Where about video production? How has video played a role in some of that?
Yeah, what I would say is that, over the years, video has become more and more an important piece in any marketing campaign. And, if you step back and you strip away all of the technical jargon, you strip away all of the strategy and all the tactics, if you think about it, video is the most natural way, other than sitting down with somebody face to face. It's the most natural, most normal, most comfortable way of communicating a message between yourself and other people. And so from a psychological standpoint, it is so important when it comes to your marketing, because it is that connection. When you can't have the physical human face to face, knees to knees at a table, so to speak, video is the next best thing. And so what I would say is we always encourage video. Even when we're doing websites, we encourage people, if nothing else, have B-roll footage that loops on your website to give people a sense and a feel of who you are, what you do, and what you stand for.
Yeah. You know what I always tell people, it's really the perfect presentation too. If you send it out to somebody, it does the same thing every time. I mean, the same presentation. People can watch it anytime they want. I mean, I find that to be, a big factor too, which is kind of nice. Okay, cool. So I hear that you have a book out, this Full Circle Marketing. Maybe you can tell me about that as well as the Freelance Accelerator. What's that all about?
Sure. Yeah. Let me jump back real quick. I want to mention one other thing with video. I think all too often, a lot of the clientele that we work with, they get so hung up around video, right? They think it has to be a full-on production. And, one of the most effective ways that we use video. So again, we do full production. You go to our website, you'll see a looping B-roll video. You see one on our culture page. So we're big believers in full production video. But one of the most effective ways that we use video is our business development representative, Dan. He will record just super short little videos on his computer, walking people through a proposal, or even just simply saying, hey, thank you so much for taking time to visit with me today. And those little real connections, right, with video are so impactful and so powerful, and anyone can do it.
Right. But what about YouTube Shorts? I mean, speaking of short videos, how do you utilize those, or do you use them now, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, what's interesting about YouTube Shorts is the way they are now distributed. They get so much more distribution automatically from YouTube.
Yeah.
That at some point that's going to change, I'm sure. Right now, YouTube is favoring that so much that I would highly encourage people, go back through your old content. If you have old content, go back through your old content. Look for ways that you can cut that down to get it into those 60-second bites, because if it's more than 60 seconds, it automatically becomes just a traditional video. But very, very effective right now. And for whatever reason, you can get a lot of distribution very quickly thanks to YouTube's favoring those right now.
Yeah, we just started doing that, and it's really weird because I just popped one up and it's like 19 views in the first 5 minutes, and it's all organic, which blew me away. I was like, okay, and it just keeps growing. Another thing I found to be pretty effective is like tagging people in the description portion of it. And the more popular those people are, if they like it, it really gets some juice to it. I mean, you really can get some impressions. Have you seen any of that type of thing?
No, but that's a great strategy. I could definitely see how that would work.
Yeah, we did one with a famous author. He's a pretty famous guy. And he happened to have 350,000 people in his LinkedIn database. And when it hit, it instantly went up to 20,000 impressions, so I know those work, which is kind of cool. It's something different anymore. And that was all tagged to a video as well. So, going back, so yeah, you have a book and you have this, is it a program, the Freelance Accelerator? What exactly is that?
Yeah, so the Freelance Accelerator is basically a program where I work with freelancers and really help them develop the skills needed and give them the tools needed to actually scale their business. In what I do, I started out really as a freelancer. I was a freelance marketer when I first started out doing little consulting marketing projects. And over the years, have transformed that into the agency that we have today with, there's 12 full-time people and some part-time people, and still we use a lot of freelancers. And so it's really just, I really love working with people who are in those early stages, because you can do a few things, you can make a few adjustments and see such phenomenal transformation, right? You're not having to move this entire big organization. They can begin making some tweaks and adjustments and radically transform their businesses pretty quickly.
Nice. And then you have a book too. You're an author as well?
I am. So the book is Full Circle Marketing. And that book really just comes from the strategies and the principles that we teach and that we use in doing our marketing. Dan, our services to do marketing are fairly expensive. I don't want to necessarily apologize for that. I mean, they are what they are, but they're expensive. So
they're value added.
They're value added. Yeah. By default, a lot of the people that I would personally love to work with simply can't afford to hire us. And so the book was an idea based on how do we get these tools that we use into the hands of people who can utilize them, who need them probably the most. And so that's where the book came from. In there's two, what I would call foundational principles of marketing. They're based on psychology. They've been around for over 100 years. And I'm a huge believer that, foundations get lost to fad over time. And so as the latest guru gets up talking about, the next magic bullet or silver bullet that's going to change or solve everything, that over time, people adapt off of what that guru is saying, and we lose sight of the original foundational pieces that were there. And at the end of the day, marketing boils down to two things. It's all about psychology and it's about math. Psychology is obvious because you have to persuade people. You have to use, campaigns and ads and whatever it is that may be to move people closer to making a purchasing decision. And then the math side is just simply because if you're not holding every dollar accountable, you're wasting money. So you have to hold your money accountable with marketing.
Yeah, and it needs to be consistent too. I mean, that's the big part. You get as well. A lot of people start it and then they stop, and they forget about it. You don't get a victory right away, and it's like, oh man, I got to stop this. Well, I hear you, where you're coming from. Okay, cool. Let me see here. So, is there any? So where can we get the book? Let's talk about that. Where can people find it?
Yeah, it's on all the major booksellers. I mean, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Borders, all those places you can find it. It's on pretty much anywhere online that you go to look for books.
Cool. So what would you say the number one thing would be that you would tell someone, let's say a younger you that's starting out in business, brand new, they want to do this, they have some fears, but they got that burning desire inside to do this. What would you tell them?
I would say there's two very important things. Number one is understanding the difference between risk and recklessness. And the best analogy I've ever heard comes from Jeff Bezos and Amazon. And when he talks about the difference between risk and recklessness, he talks about the difference between a revolving door, so like a door to a hotel that just goes around and around and around, versus a one-way door. And so when we think about a situation, so if that's leaving a corporate job like I did to step out into sales, then we think about that sometimes and we think we're being reckless, we're throwing everything away. But the question becomes, can we get back in the same room that we were previously? In other words, if I'd walked away from a corporate sales job to start my lawn and landscape company, which I did, could I have gotten back into corporate sales? And the answer is yes. Could I have gone back to work for the same company? Maybe, maybe not, right? They may not have an opening, but I probably could have found a job selling for someone somewhere in corporate sales. So in that case, that's like a revolving door. Now, if you're facing a decision that is a one-way door, that means it's going to be almost impossible to get back in the same place, in the same room, quote unquote, that you were previously before you made that decision. And so I love to think about the difference between risk and recklessness, because in the early days, very often we get very emotionally wrapped up and tied into these things. And we think that sometimes we're being reckless when instead we're actually taking what I would say calculated, reasonable risk moving forward. That would be number one. I know that's a long answer, but the second piece would be the difference between advice and opinion. And so in the very early days or early years of me getting started with this business, I confused those two things. So whenever I would run into a problem or even an opportunity, I would go to people and I would ask them for their input, assuming that they were giving me advice. And instead, what they were giving me is opinion. Right. And the reason is because they weren't entitled to actually give me advice. And what I've come to learn is there's actually three types of people who we should go to for advice. Number one is someone who's been there, right? They've been in the situation, they've been in that same scenario, and therefore we can rely on what they learned from themselves going through that situation. The second would be someone who observed it firsthand, right? So maybe if you're trying to grow a business or scale a business, maybe you can't talk to the founder or the CEO, but maybe you can talk to the COO or the CFO, somebody who was there firsthand, who witnessed the way they handled the problems, handled the opportunities that came along. And then the third type of person would be someone who's a world-class expert, right? Someone who has poured their life into the thing that you're trying to do, right? They know the answers to that. So that would be like for y'all with video. So people should come to y'all for your advice on video. They can go to a lot of other people and ask for their opinion about video and how to do video and what they should do with their video. But the problem we run into is when we confuse those two, right? Everyone's going to give you an answer because they want to help you. Everyone's going to say, oh, I think you should do X, Y, or Z. Or, I saw this video that was really great on wherever YouTube, you should do something like that, right?
Yeah.
And that's just their opinion. That's not actual advice.
No, that's great. That's great to hear. And believe me, I've heard a lot of that over the years, and sometimes they make it more than opinion, they say, you need to do this, and you're like, you have to just wait and decide, really, and think of logistics behind it. I did have another question. It's kind of sales oriented. We're really heavily sales oriented over here, and I grew up in the old school of sales, and hearing how it, and seeing how it's changed has been pretty amazing over the years. How does your sales cycle work? How do you get a new client?
Yeah. So for us, Dan, we have invested extremely heavily over the years in converting our existing customers into evangelists for us. And so that's a very intentional thing. In the book, Full Circle Marketing, is one of the huge principles I talk about is what we call the natural progression. And so when we think about marketing, we think about we've got to convert all these strangers out here into friends of ours, right? They have to know about us, they have to like us. And then we convert those friends into customers where they pull out their wallets, they hand us money. And when we think about marketing, we often think that's the end of our job, right? We've taken all these strangers, we put our ad out there in front of them, we've gotten them to like us, to know about us, we've built trust with them, they've now handed us money. Our job as marketers is done. And what I say in the book is that's a mistake. You see, as marketers, that's really, in my opinion, where most of our work begins. Because at that point, we have to ensure that we are actually turning those customers into evangelists. And the first step you have to start with is you have to say, okay, what does a reasonable customer have the right to expect once they hire me? Once you get clear about what those expectations are, it's only then that you can exceed those expectations. And if you're not exceeding expectations, you're not going to create evangelists. So for us, we've been investing for years more money turning customers into evangelists than trying to attract new people into the door. And what has happened for us over the years because of that, we're in a town of 48,000 people, give or take. And we're in the middle of Louisiana. The next biggest town is about probably 80 miles from here, and the population is about 120,000 people. So we're in a pretty isolated, small area. But from this little location, we have attracted New York Times bestselling authors. We have attracted Fortune 500 companies. We have attracted, not the name drop, but the name drop, we've attracted Michael Jackson's estate to reach out to us and hire us to do some work. So the point of that is this, that when you create evangelists for your company, for your organization, they connect you with the person that they are next connected with. Yep. And the beautiful thing about that is we don't have to do the work, right? They bring them to us.
Yeah.
The one other thing I'll add to that, I see so often that when people go to ask for like a referral, so in other words, I want to go to somebody, I want to say, hey, can you refer somebody to us? Like we did a great job for you. Would you mind referring somebody to us? I believe that's a mistake. I think the better way to approach it is this. You go to your customer who you know is connected with all these other people. And you don't say, hey, can you connect me with some other business owners who could use our services? Instead, you do some research and you go to them and say, hey, I noticed that you play golf with this person. Would you mind just a quick email introduction for us? Because I really believe we could help them with their marketing, their website, their video, whatever it may be. So my approach to sales is a bit different in that we have now been investing so long in the evangelist side of things that they're constantly bringing us business and we're not having to go out and try to find it.
Wow, that is fantastic. And you know what? It's such a unique thing because you're right. A lot of people will just go in and they have the wrong mindset too. They get the mindset of like me, and when in reality, it's all about the customer and you really have to find out what their goals are and their needs. And, you work we've always found when you get in with the customer, you become part of their team. And it's no longer about budget. It's no longer about this. It's all about, hey, can you get this done? We have to work with this person. Can we work together to get this? One thing we found more recently has been customers come to us to go hire other video production companies, in other parts of the country, just because they trust us to do that. And I'm sure you get that same type of thing. As a consultant, you consult for certain things, and it's a nice place to be. It's kind of like a golden path that you get on that the customer doesn't want to go away.
Yeah. Now, I love what you just said, because I see that so often where you talk about you becoming a trusted partner for the customer, for the client. And where I see so many, particularly in the freelance world, where I see so many of them making mistakes is they don't know how to go from just being the graphic designer or just being the web designer, photographer, whatever it is, into the trusted partner. And so I teach them there's 3 questions you should ask. And just by simply asking these questions, like however they answer, it doesn't even matter. But when you ask a prospect these 3 questions, it transforms your positioning in their minds. And if you don't mind, I'll briefly give those 3 questions.
Please do.
Yeah. So question number 1 is simply this: Mr. or Miss Prospect, how will you use this? I'm going to use video. How will you use this video to help you reach your goals? How is this video going to help you reach your goals? So what you're doing by asking that question is you're saying, look, I know this isn't just about a video. I know this is about something else. You've got a goal you're pursuing. How is this video going to help you reach that goal? Question number 2 is this: how will you measure the ROI, return on investment, from this video? Now, again, most 90% are not going to give you a good answer to that question. But when you ask that question, you immediately in their brain say that you are thinking about it from an ROI perspective. You're not just thinking about, oh, I'm going to do the thing for you. I'm going to do the video for you and we're going to be done. You're thinking about it from, how am I going to ensure, as a partner with you, how am I going to ensure that this is going to provide a positive ROI? And the third question is simply this. We love to ask the question, Mr. or Miss Prospect, if the video that we create for you helps you reach your goal that you told me about in question number 1, what would that be worth to you? Now, again, they're not going to probably give you a good answer to that, but those 3 questions alone take you from just a doer of a thing into a partner, into someone who's looking out for their best interest.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's great news. I just learned something today too. So I learned, just listening to you, I learned a lot. I'm learning some different things that old dogs learn new things sometimes, Very good. Very good. So, okay. So how can people reach you? I mean, tell us, smart guy, you guys got a great business. How can they find out where you're at?
Sure. The simplest place in terms of just business related stuff is our website. That's just uglymugmarketing.com. If you want to follow me, where I talk a bit more about the freelance stuff and just some other kind of personal development related things, you can follow me on Instagram, and it's just @fireyourself on Instagram.
Cool. All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on today. I think our viewers are going to get a fantastic education on marketing. It's a unique thing that's continually evolving nowadays, and it's sometimes very hard to get the measurable results you want. But it sounds like you got that right in the crosshairs, which is fantastic. So I appreciate you coming on today, and look forward to launching this shortly.
Thanks so much for your time, Dan. I've enjoyed our chat.
Awesome. Thanks.
Let's face it, everybody loves to make podcasts and vodcasts, but nobody wants to edit them. Well, except for us. At Premier Podcast Productions, we professionally edit and distribute podcasts and vodcasts for companies around the world. Our process is simple and affordable, allowing you to stay focused on what you do best, developing great content and building your subscriber base. From recording and editing to final distribution and marketing, we can help every step of the way to make your podcast stand out and get the results it deserves. Contact us today at premierpodcastpros.com to take your podcast to the next level.